Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. So Campbell Hatton lost for the second time in a row to the same opponent, James Flint, this past weekend. Campbell, of course, the son of the famous Ricky Hatton, 23 years of age, fighting at 140 pounds just like his dad. Going into this rematch with Flint, he was 14-1 with 5 KOs. As many other people have said, I think Campbell Hatton has found his level here. We're talking about area level, not even British level. And the reason I say this is because while it's true that many great fighters throughout history have lost to obscure opposition early on in their pro careers, in the vast majority of those cases, they were real blue-collar fighters who didn't have the opportunity to get proper training camps and proper notice for fights, didn't have the greatest training setup, probably not the best nutrition, getting paid peanuts, some of them working day jobs, along with trying to be professional boxers. When that's your reality, even if you do have some potential, it's going to be difficult for you to fulfill your potential until your circumstances improve. If and when your circumstances do improve, these fighters often change their careers quite dramatically. The problem here is that's not Campbell Hatton's situation. Being the son of the famous Ricky Hatton, he's had it all laid on from day one. Doesn't have to work a day job. He's had access to the best training facilities, excellent teaching, great opportunities on matchroom shows, strength and conditioning, the best nutrition, you name it. He's had it all from the start. Despite that, he's now 14-2 with those 5 KOs at area level. To put it in further perspective, the guy that he just lost to for the second time in a row, James Flint, he had a fight in between the two Campbell Hatton fights against a guy called Kyle Boyd. If we click on his BoxRec page here, you'll see that Kyle Boyd is 7-1 with 0 KOs. 7-1 with 0 KOs. That's the guy that James Flint just lost to prior to the Campbell Hatton rematch. So how limited must Campbell Hatton be to be losing to this guy? You know, I don't blame Campbell Hatton at all for trying to follow in his father's footsteps. Many of us, perhaps even most of us, that are raised without money, grew up dreaming of being raised with money, imagining all the things that we could do with that type of privilege, with those type of opportunities. And for many of us, our purpose in life is financial success, so that we can help ourselves and help our kids and help our families. And as much as it's a struggle and it's a grind, and it's very tough, we do have a purpose, we do have a goal due to our circumstances. But when you're a rich kid who grows up in privilege and wants for nothing, in some cases, you're struggling to find a purpose. You're not quite sure what to do. You're living in the shadow of a famous father, and you want to become a man in your own right. You don't just want to be known as so-and-so's son. Now, I'm not shedding tears here for Campbell Hatton, but again, I understand why he wanted to become a professional boxer. I get it. Why wouldn't he idolize his dad, given what his dad achieved? Why wouldn't he want to be just like him? But unfortunately for Campbell, he just doesn't have the ability that his dad had. Not that his dad was an amazing fighter. He was certainly never one of my favorite fighters, but he was a world champion. He was a fighter of a certain caliber. Campbell Hatton is nowhere near that. And even though he's still young, just 23, I don't see him ever getting remotely close to it. I remember when he first turned pro, people were making comparisons to the likes of Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. But I said even back then that to my eyes, Campbell Hatton looks to be far less talented than Conor Benn or Chris Eubank Jr. And they didn't live up to their dads. I mean, I guess Conor Benn's still got a bit of time, but Chris Eubank Jr. certainly hasn't lived up to his dad. It was apparent to me right from the start that Campbell Hatton was less talented than those two. Fast forward 3 years, and here we are, losing again at area level. In a nutshell, Campbell Hatton's biggest problem is that he has no power, and I mean absolutely no power, and his skills aren't good enough to compensate for it. Because there have been fighters in the past, you know, Paulie Malignaggi had no power, but his skills compensated for it enough for him to become a world champion several times. Barry Jones, similar thing, but even more extreme. I think he had 1 KO in his whole career, but he became a world champion. Campbell Hatton just doesn't have the skills to compensate for those pillow fists. Now, if he really enjoys boxing and he doesn't mind never reaching the top, then yeah, continue, by all means. As long as he's not getting hurt, then he's matched appropriately against people with a similar amount of ability. All I would say is be careful, because you don't have to box. And this sport will damage you over time, physically, neurologically. If you don't need to take that kind of damage to feed your family, why do it? At least in the long term, especially since you're not going to get anywhere near the top of the game. Maybe he could make his goal winning a British title one day. If there's a weak enough British champion at some point, perhaps he could achieve it, but certainly not right now. So, those are my thoughts on Campbell Hatton. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, share it, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And before I go, make sure you check out this video I've done on Riddick Bowe. It's a nearly 3-hour career review where I do commentary on actual fight footage, not still images, actual video from his amateur fight against Lennox Lewis in the Seoul Olympics in 1988, all the way through his pro career. It was like a trip down memory lane for me. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, watching Riddick Bowe's career unfold. So very nostalgic for me, and I'm sure very nostalgic for many of you who've watched it that are of the same generation as myself, and very informative for those of you who maybe didn't grow up watching Riddick Bowe. Maybe you're too young or you weren't a boxing fan back then. This video is getting great feedback from my patrons. As I say, it's nearly 3 hours long. If you want to access this video along with hundreds of hours worth of other exclusive boxing content, as well as our members chat, just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called the Boxing Brotherhood. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Just download the app from the Play Store or the App Store. All the links are in the description box below.